what we're seeing in the market right now between Xbox and PlayStation has been a crazy turn of events. I expected going into this, being a PlayStation fan myself, that PlayStation 5 was going to pick up where the last generation consoles had left off. And so far here in March 2021, Xbox, in my opinion, is solely ahead of the PlayStation. Some of the things to note: first and foremost is going to be the Xenomax acquisition. So that was big news going into the launches of the consoles themselves. That Xenomax acquisition is pretty much done, barring some other things that they have going on, such as the case where there was the game that they offered as a monthly pass, if you will, and it didn't have everything in it, and they're trying to work that thing out behind the scenes, the legalities and everything. I'm not going to jump into that. You've all heard about that, but that'd be a quick fix for them. And other than that, that thing is pretty much solid. And people knew that was going to be a big purchase because of Bethesda. But let's talk about some of the other places that also, some of the other studios that are also underneath the ZeniMax umbrella. It's not just Bethesda. There are also other studios that are also a part of that ZeniMax. ZeniMax Media has Arcane Studios, which is the Dishonored 2, and also the Prey game, Prey, which is the space exploration game. You kind of wake up on a ship not understanding what's going on. Super fun game. If you haven't played that yet, check it out. And id Software was basically notably known for almost creating the first-person shooter video game, with the Wolfenstein 3D. But then they also went on to create Doom, Doom 2, Quake, the whole Quake series, Doom 3, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, but the Wolfenstein, the New Order, etc. But also they had a Wolfenstein, New Colossus in 2017. But another studio that has done really promising things in the past. Not much noise these days, but also another studio that's kind of going under the radar, along with the acquisition of ZeniMax. They also have Tango Gameworks, which is Tango Gameworks is pretty cool because they came out with The Evil Within, The Evil Within 2, of course, but they're also responsible for the upcoming game Ghostwire Tokyo, which is a new game that's coming out for PlayStation 5 again. So people are kind of, we're focused on, Bethesda, rightfully so, but it's super strategic, the games that are flying under the wire underneath some of these other brands that are underneath Bethesda, or at least the the ZeniMax purchase, if you will. Two of these games that are underneath the ZeniMax purchase is again coming out on PlayStation 5 here shortly, or expected to come out on PlayStation 5 here shortly, and it leaves you to wonder what are the thoughts now that Phil Spencer has made the comment that, and I put this in quotation, some games will be exclusive, on Xbox going forward. I don't think that Microsoft is ready to kind of like drop the hammer and throw wrenches in things that have already been decided, but they have the power to, and that's what makes things interesting, as we kind of focus on, a little bit more of the ZeniMax purchase, other than just, Bethesda, but rightfully so, right? Bethesda is who they are. They are who we thought they were, so super interesting to see what happens going forward. I am really anxious to see what the release is for tomorrow, the Bethesda media release that they're going to do tomorrow. So super interested to see what they say and what they talk about. Okay, next, let's talk about backwards compatibility. Now, we all knew going into the consoles and to the console launches last November that backwards compatibility was going to be a big thing for Xbox, as they promised almost all of their library to be available from backwards compatibility. While PlayStation struggles in that effort, Xbox is kicking ass in that effort. Most of the games are backwards compatible, but it's not even just that. Now they're going back and creating a basic hardware update through software that is basically making those games run at higher frames per second. So you're having a lot of games, and they just released, I'm not going to jump into that. We've seen this, we've talked about this, different people have talked about this, but we've seen them go back and boost older games up to 60 frames per second. through a software update, and that in itself is phenomenal. They're going to continue to do that for their backwards compatible games. So not only are the next generation games going to be running at that minimum 60 frames per second, they're also working on that old catalog of games that you may have already purchased or already own, already a part of your library, as well as Game Pass, to also run at that 60 frames per second. That's just, again, that's another reason. That's reason number 2 why Xbox is kicking PlayStation's ass right now in this next generation console. Okay, so this is something that we've seen a little bit throughout the test. When you look at games like Control, when you look at other games that they're basically comparing right now across the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, you're seeing that consistent 60 frames per second with that Xbox because of the 12 teraflops of raw processing power that this one has. Now, again, it's not that big of a difference, but Xbox does have the edge when it comes to just raw processing power right now, and you're starting to see that in some of the games where they're doing the side-by-side comparisons. And to the human eye, to be fair to both of these systems, you're not going to tell that much of a difference to the human eye. I mean, you can run all of those tests and they can be 5 frames per second off, 3 frames per second off, within those particular tests. But to the human eye, in the defense of PlayStation, you're not going to be able to tell the difference consistently. The quick resume, and not only that, but Xbox, Microsoft's commitment to making all games be available underneath that quick resume. So this is something that PlayStation does not have, and it has kind of flown under the radar. I mentioned it in one of my videos prior, and the comments were comical as far as like the people that responded that said it wasn't that important. However, it's not important if you've never used it before. So with the PlayStation 5, they use the card system where you basically are, when you highlight the particular game in your library and you slide down on the home screen, there are cards that you can click on. For instance, in Madden 21, you can click on, go directly to the franchise, you can click directly, go to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, I'm not talking about them. But where I'm talking about where they're lacking is that even if you click those cards on PlayStation 5, it still has to load the game up. It takes you to that part of the menu. So you might skip on Madden 21, you might skip the first home screen, and then you start at the exhibition and you still have to load your game. However, with the quick resume on Xbox Series X, it's completely different. When you select that game, it takes you exactly to where you left off, whether that's a pause screen or an idle screen because you left the game sitting for a while. So that in itself is so much convenience to be able to pick up a controller, select the game, and within seconds be playing the game. Now, I've said this before, and I think it's flying under the radar because if you're a PlayStation fan, you're not used to having that. Unless you've played the new Xbox, you don't understand what the benefit of that is. But for somebody like myself, whereas I might be playing, for instance, my daily circumstances at the end of the night when I wind down, I might be playing Madden, I might be playing 2K21 or something like that, and then my cousin jumps on and he says, hey man, let's get online, let's play this Grand Theft Auto 5, and as soon as I click on Grand Theft Auto 5, I'm there. Now on PlayStation, that's not the case. It turns off the game that you're playing, you load up the new game, which will be Grand Theft Auto 5, and then you play it. So that's my current circumstance because I play Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation. However, if I was playing it on the Xbox, then I would be able to take advantage of that quick resume, and I would basically switch over to Grand Theft Auto 5, and then I would immediately, after finishing playing online, I would be able to pick back up on Madden 21 as well as 2K21 exactly where I left off without closing the other application, just literally clicking on it and boom, I'm in that new game. So that's something that people are failing to realize what that actual feature can do for you. And the more we play this next generation, and the more we see it and use it, people will start to understand what a value that is. But that is a phenomenal value when you're thinking about next generation. Okay, so those are 4 reasons why the Xbox is winning and beating PlayStation's ass. Let's talk about where the Xbox is a little lacking right now, and that's the controller. Kind of. Kind of. I'm going to give this one a tie, and here's the reason why. The PlayStation 5 has a much better controller. They have the matter of fact, Okay. The PlayStation 5 has a much better controller because this particular controller, let's see, the PlayStation 5 has a much better controller because this particular controller is next generation. It's a complete redesign from the start. I'm looking at the camera. It's a complete redesign from the start. You know, the layout, the buttons, the triggers, the adaptive triggers, and how the games can control how hard it is to pull these different triggers and what have you. There's a share button, share and broadcast button up here, pause button. Even the touch screen is fresh and renewed. USB-C. I forgot the name of this thing here. This annoys me though. And then not only that, but there's the built-in microphone within the controller, so that you don't actually need a microphone to play. There's a microphone right there, and then there's a mute button if you don't want to use that. You want to use a headset or whatever. So this in itself is why the PlayStation is winning in this area, except for the fact that they're breaking. Mine haven't broken yet. I have the benefit of having multiple systems and different stuff like that. So I haven't put as much wear and tear as some of these people that are starting to have issues with these, with drifting and just flat out starting to fall apart. And there's you know, there's class action lawsuits going on right now against PlayStation for this particular controller. So I mean, can we chalk this up as a win? Yes. No, maybe, I don't know. But what I can say about my Xbox controller is that I've had zero issues with it. It's not new from the ground up. They stayed with the classic, you know, with the classic look. I mean, when you look at the top of it, the bumpers and the triggers are slightly different. The Joy-Cons, you know, move nicely, and they added the share button to the middle that starts your share now, and they have the textured grip on the back end. It's not the engraved or embossed PlayStation symbols, you know, like the PlayStation controller. But what I can say about this controller is that it's tried and true, and even though it's been annoying, not annoying, that's a strong word. Even though I would prefer for them to have done something new, now that I'm starting to hear the noise about the PlayStation controller, I'm glad they kind of went with the plan that they did, which was leave this controller alone. It works. It's compatible with all the backwards compatible games. There's no issues there. There's no issues with it with the system. And now they're sending out the surveys and different things like that, and they're asking their players, would you want a new controller like the PlayStation? So I think they did the smart thing in focusing on the hardware that they already had, improving it slightly. And then they're going to drop the updated controllers later. So is that a power play by Microsoft? Because they kind of had the Elite Series, and we all know that the Elite Series is $150 and up per controller, and they're probably going to do the same thing this generation along with as well, which is basically come out with this basic controller, and then about 6 months from now they're going to drop the Elite 3 next gen or something crazy like that. So I kind of want to say that, you know, the PlayStation 5, again, well, it's not kind of. This is a better controller once they work the kinks out that are plaguing other people. So PlayStation wins this one. And I guess it's a better controller, but I call it a tie because this one actually works and there's no issues. So that's not where Xbox is kicking their ass. PlayStation beat them in that if it works. Yeah. It's not just about Xbox Game Pass. It's not just about the constant updates that Xbox has produced since the next generation console has released. It's not just about the backwards compatibility and the frames per second boost and different things like that. It's not about the purchase or acquisition of Zenimax and the multiple studios underneath Zenimax, but it's really about the aggression that Xbox is coming out, and the reason why they're kicking PlayStation's ass, because PlayStation is kind of resting on its laurels. It seems it's kind of resting on the fact that PlayStation is the #1 console and has been for the last however many years. However, because of that, I feel like PlayStation has been extremely docile in the fact in what it's been doing to basically win this next generation. We are starting to see PlayStation have to respond to Xbox and everything that Xbox is doing now that PlayStation is starting to release some of their exclusives on PC. I mean, the list is growing. There's even a rumor now that God of War is going to be coming to PC, which God of War has been literally an Xbox, I mean, a PlayStation exclusive since the PlayStation, 3? I mean, I remember buying one specifically to play God of War, and at that point, I was an Xbox gamer. So now that they're starting to feel the pressure and they're putting their major titles on PC, it's starting to say a lot as far as like the heat that Xbox is kicking up right now for PlayStation. So, and not to mention the new Xbox headset is dropping here in a couple days, I think a week or so. I got one coming, I got one pre-ordered, so mine should arrive right on time so I can do a review and compare that one to the Pulse headset for PlayStation. But it's just an interesting race already. And I think that Xbox came out guns a-blazing, arms swinging, clawing, biting, nailing, doing whatever they can do to win this next generation console. And I think that PlayStation really needs to pick their shit up right now, because nothing is going on that side of the house that has sparked the amount of conversation that Xbox is doing right now. I mean, even if you go back and you look at some of Phil Spencer's media days and media releases and things like that, he has things sitting all above the shelves and different stuff like that, just creating buzz and speculation. And it's been nothing. It's been crickets out of PlayStation, other than the fact that they're getting sued for the controller not working. And so for somebody, again, I still consider myself a PlayStation gamer. So I mean, listen, I'm starting to worry about the home front. So PlayStation needs to pick their stuff up, and they need to start working as hard to gain this next wave of generation players, just like Xbox is doing. So that's it for me. You all let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay cozy in that crazy world, and we'll see you next time.